Star Wars fans, welcome back to the channel. We're here to talk about The Mandalorian Chapter 15, The Believer. And don't mind me, I'll probably just be eating a little bit of Grogu cookies here.
These are disgusting.
Ryan says they're a little nasty. If it's good enough for Grogu, it's good enough for me, made with genuinely blue milk.
This is disgusting. it's not good. What flavor is this?
You know what? I don't know. It comes from a galaxy far, far away.
You can't tell me that tastes good. See right there.
It's
I see it. See, you have come to the conclusion. See, you didn't take a whole bite. Okay. That's disgusting. You're going to have some issues later on.
If it's good enough for Grogu, it's good enough for me. All right, so we're here to talk everything Chapter 15, The Believer. We are getting closer and closer to the end of Season 2. So we're going to get into spoilers just to let you guys know. So, and that could be anything for Clone Wars, Rebels, anything with the movies. It might not just be spoilers for The Mandalorian. We're going to dive into everything today. So let's go right into it.
Jump in.
What did you think about Chapter 15? How'd you feel about it?
It was fine.
It was fine.
It was fun. No.
He's really excited about Mandalorian Chapter 15.
You're really excited about that cookie. It was a good episode. It was a good episode for what it was, right? Yeah. Like we fell into kind of that, that same Mando, type episode where they need something done, got to go on a mission to get it, then we'll go on to the next thing. So they had to go somewhere to get some coordinates. They picked up Mayfield. They had to work with some pirates.
A shootout.
A shootout.
They get what
I'm not gonna lie, that was probably my favorite action scene in all of the Mandalorian so far.
Which one?
With the pirates.
The pirate? Okay. I love that scene.
I thought that was a very engaging scene.
I agree.
From beginning to end.
It also introduced, for me, Star Wars with wheels.
Yes.
It was a little bit weird for me.
Yes. Fast and Furious meets The Mandalorian.
Although they couldn't go over a certain mile per hour. It was kind of like Speed meets The Mandalorian.
Yeah, so...
Speed chase.
But I mean, no. Overall, I think it was a good episode for what it was. Right? Yeah. They had to get some information in order to help track down Moff Gideon. No Baby Yoda this episode.
No.
Was this the first episode without Baby Yoda?
I was thinking about it. Besides the first one, I mean, technically, even in the first episode of season 1,
but they showed it
at the end.
They showed him.
And I'll tell you, hot take, I didn't really miss him.
I told you.
Here's the thing.
I told you.
His spirit was there. I'm gonna take a bite from you, Grogu.
I told you, what was it? Maybe 4 videos ago, that The Mandalorian would not miss Baby Yoda. As far as like viewership, right? Like us, right? Watching The Mandalorian, if Grogu, Baby Yoda, the child, if he wasn't there, wouldn't miss a beat.
I'm only okay with it because we know we're gonna get him next week.
If he wasn't in it next week, you wouldn't care. Because he's not... all right, I'm just telling you. So anyway, I didn't even blink an eye. I was just like, oh, this is great. We're on this adventure.
Yeah. I can say this episode did feel like the most adult episode.
Yes.
And I think, so for me...
I think a lot of that has to do with Bill Burr.
I think so too. I think it has to do with the writing.
Yeah.
Because this was one of those, like, they dealt with some serious issues. Yeah. So Bill Burr's character, Mayfeld, he was dealing with a lot of PTSD.
Yes.
And that's something that we don't really talk a lot about in society, let alone in The Mandalorian. So that was really cool to see. I think the script was so strong, and just the dialogue, the back and forth, some of the moral issues that it raised, I think it was probably my second favorite episode of the season, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
I could see that. I think...
Right behind the Ahsoka the Jedi episode.
I think this character, or not character, character and this episode, I think this episode had the best performance of any character that I've seen in The Mandalorian thus far.
And I think, are you talking Bill Burr's character?
Bill Burr's character. I think,
which isn't. I had no idea. And for those who didn't know, Bill Burr, he plays Mayfeld. He's one of my top 3 comedians probably. I didn't know he had that level of acting chops. I was pleasantly surprised with it.
Yeah, excellent. That was the most. You felt something.
Yeah.
Right. You felt something,
Yeah.
but you didn't feel like you have. I feel something in the world of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Right. Like you feel certain things. Right. Like even in the last couple of episodes of Clone Wars, when Ahsoka's navigating what she's navigating, you feel something, but you don't really feel it on a person level, right? Like a human being level. Yeah. You're caught up in that moment.
I mean, he's sitting there talking to his superior that was in charge of making the decision to kill. Did he say 5,000 to 10,000 troopers?
5,000,
blow up entire cities. For those who don't know, Operation Cinder was basically what Palpatine had in place at the end of the Empire. If he couldn't have the galaxy, nobody could have it. So he went around and he had his troops. After his death, kind of death. We know he didn't truly die, but whenever
they're going to decanonize that. It's coming. It's coming.
And I'll have to be able to process that.
They're going to
when and if that does
it's
come.
Gonna happen.
You think so?
Oh,
I don't
that's
know.
happening.
They just released books that were saying it was clone and he left his spirit left his body and hopped into something else. And the Force was keeping him alive. I mean, I don't know. That's hard to decanonize at this point.
Continue.
I don't know where I was at. So anyway, again, Operation Cinder. Bill Burr's character, he was witness firsthand to just thousands of stormtroopers slaughtered, friends that he grew up with, friends that he served with, innocent people in the city. So whenever he's acting and he's almost to the point of tears, you can really feel that welling up. And you could see it on Mando's face.
Yeah.
Now that we can see Mando's face, we'll talk about that in a second. But that was some really great acting by Pedro, reacting to Mayfeld's character, right? Because he knows exactly what's building up inside him at that moment when he's talking to his superior, and that superior, he doesn't care about everything. To him is collateral damage. Yeah. It's all just about the Empire rising. So the fact that he has that building up inside of him, you know where that scene's going to go. Yeah. He shoots him. Mando and him have to escape in a different way than they had initially anticipated.
You know what I felt watching Mayfeld get sad and have all those emotions, and it felt like, of course it's nowhere near close to it, but it felt like that scene in Joker when he's talking to Robert De Niro at the very end.
Gotcha.
And you can just see as Robert De Niro keeps talking and talking, he's just getting more built up and more built up and more built. And finally,
there's a lot beneath the surface.
Yeah. And Bill Burr was just processing, and you could just see it. It was a ticking time bomb, and I knew something was going to happen. But yeah, that's the first time I felt something with the Mandalorian on a human being level, because I think everyone, even if you don't directly know somebody that's been impacted by PTSD or someone that's been in the service, and you may not have someone in your family or one of your friends, but somebody, right? Either it's it's through somebody else, right, that has been impacted by that.
And we've all had things that we've gone through and had to process, and you might not feel the person that you're with is on that same level as you, and they capture that 100% perfectly. So with that, let's talk about that scene, because in that scene, Din Djarin, Mando, takes off his helmet, and for the first time, we see other humans see his face. What did you did you expect that in this episode? How'd you feel about it?
Well, unfortunately, the great people on Twitter spoiled
Shout out to Twitter spoilers around the nation.
Okay, listen. Spoiler protocol. You gotta wait at least 24 hours.
Yeah, man.
Wait at least 24 hours. At least, not 6.
In 2020, if we don't want to be spoiled, we have to
at least
pay no attention to anything on the internet.
But at least don't post anything. No spoilers for 24 hours. After that, I gotta stay off. But give me 24 hours. But anyways, I thought, so I had two thoughts about that. The first was when he took off his helmet, I was like, he just looked really awkward.
Yeah.
And
as I think most people would be, who they are always beneath the mask. They are comfortable.
That's where I'm going. Right. At first, it was like, what's he doing? Why is he like, he just look? But then I thought about it, and I was like, well, you know what? I would probably feel really awkward. I would feel the same way, right? Yeah. Like, you've been in this armor, you probably only take it off to eat. And, I don't even think they've gone into, and you might know deeper mythology, but even when they're eating, does he only just lift up his helmet enough for him to eat? Does he sleep,
from what we've seen, he just, when he drinks or eats, he just lifts it up a little bit. So, yeah.
He never takes it off, really. And so you could tell he just looked very isolated from everything that was going on around him. He couldn't really, almost like he couldn't process other people's emotions, or, Mayfield, he can see what's going on with Mayfield, and he just looked like a rock. Like he.
And you know what's interesting about it too? Like, when they did it, I love the way that they did it, because you would think by the time we finally get to see his face, it would be this slow motion, really dramatic reveal. It wasn't. He just popped the thing off and kind of stood there with a look of horror on his face because he's completely exposed. But for me, just that little bit is great storytelling, because we have seen how far he's come since the first episode of season 1. That's how much Grogu means to him. That's how much he's grown as really taking into consideration, like, is this an outdated way of looking at things? Does it really matter? Does the fact that I'm underneath this helmet, are those beliefs really what I should be believing, or is it really going to help me get to the next point? Yeah. So that shows how far he was willing to go for his son.
And I think that's one of the great things about introducing Bo-Katan, right? Like, because it was a progression, right? Yeah. Like, you talk to Bo-Katan. Bo-Katan's telling you, like, man, you take your helmet off. Yeah. It's not that big of a deal.
Like it's an outdated religion. It's an extremist. Yeah.
And then, you also start to build up this relationship with Grogu and Baby Yoda. And then you kind of hear Bill Burr, Mayfield, kind of talking to him. And
I love that scene.
And that's that is included in what I mean about, like, just a great portrayal of that character, right? Just the great performance, because I felt that, and that was more than just Star Wars. That was, at some point, everybody has a line.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who you are, everybody will cross that line, right? And you saw that he crossed that line.
He did.
Right? That line got crossed. So, I think
Well, and I think for me, one of the cool things that modern Star Wars is doing a really good job at is kind of showing that, I don't want to say the gray area, but I think in George Lucas's Star Wars and 40 years ago, and a lot of storytelling from those days, there's a very clear, this is good, this is evil. Every stormtrooper, Darth Vader, they're all evil. Our rebels are all good. But then this is one of those types of episodes that actually breaks it down and shows, no, there are people beneath these stormtrooper helmets, and whether they believe or not believe, I mean, that's kind of their job. And again, whether they're doing good or doing bad, they believe that what they're doing is right. So that's why for me, and I've heard a couple of people say, oh wow, this was really a filler episode. For me, the reason that I really love it is because it wasn't afraid to go there. And I think the script writing was so tight. Like this, honestly, this episode kept me more riveted just from the dialogue alone than some of the more action oriented. And I never thought I would say that.
So, unfortunately, this episode, this isn't a hot take. I think you'll agree with me on this. This episode showed what Finn should have been.
100% agree. I thought of that when I watched it.
That's what I thought about the whole time I was watching this. I'm like, literally, in almost a 30-minute episode.
They did it in 37 minutes.
They did it in 37 minutes. They gave this one guy more character development, more...
And he's not a main character. He's just an offshoot character that we
had
when
three movies.
When we saw him in episode 6 of the first season, he was really just an asshole, and you didn't really get a sense of who he was or why he does anything. So to get a character just from the side, and whenever you put a character in the hands of true storytellers, then that's something that you see the impact. The fact that we spent three movies with Finn, and to your point, this is what it could have, should have been. That PTSD moment that we were looking at is something that you would think would have been explored from Finn and could have been explored even deeper throughout that, all 3 movies. We didn't really get it. And as a matter of fact, past episode 7, we barely ever touched on it again. I mean, he was killing stormtroopers left and right without any regard. He could have went to the same academy for the First Order. So, yeah, that's a fantastic
3 movies.
Point. Yeah.
3 movies.
3 movies.
6 hours.
Yeah.
Actually more than 6 hours.
Mando did it in 37 or less.
Mando did...
like delivering a pizza.
Decanonized. Decanonized. But yeah, no, the character developed, just the performances in this, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Mayfield, Mando, their performances, it's you don't think about it, but having to act like you've been isolated from the world for your whole life.
Yeah.
That is incredible, and he pulled it off, right?
Yeah. So do you think, going forward, do you think we're going to get more of Mando out of the helmet, or do you think that's just
what they're
setting?
No, I mean, I think they're setting that up. I mean, I think it's been just a slow progression, and I mean, it makes sense. Like, one thing we know about Mando, he's a smart character.
Yeah.
He cares about his armor. We know he's prideful, but what they are slowly doing, they are, I mean, even think about it. He took his armor off.
Yeah.
And he gave it to somebody else.
And that was really weird too. Just seeing him without that. So seeing him without that plus the helmet. Yeah. Character steps.
Not only did he show his face, but he gave his armor to somebody else. So, I mean, I think episode by episode, they're starting to show that, he's letting that old religion go, right? He's becoming more modern, more forward thinking, more, he has something now that is more important to him than his armor.
Yeah.
Right? And before he didn't have that.
And I mean, as a youngling, he was that. Right? When he sees Grogu without any family, without any friends, that's who he was. He was an orphan who was taken in by this group of guys, and now you're seeing him come to terms with, maybe those people who raised me didn't really have it right. Maybe there is a different way that I can go in this galaxy. And it took a while to get here, because I know, the first season, it's really not heavy on plot, and it doesn't always feel like there were a lot of stakes.
Right.
But now that season 2 has kind of revealed exactly where it's headed for his story arc, I think that's the coolest part. And I'm really excited to see what happens in the last episode of the season and into season 3.
So, predictions
for next episode. So I think we are going to, now that we have the core group, and I'll be honest, I thought Mayfeld was going to be part of the core group. You never know. They might bring him back, but I think we're going to see a core group of people now that they have the coordinates from Moff Gideon. I think we're going to see a raid on the destroyer that he's in. I thought, if you would have asked me maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago, I thought we were going to get an Ahsoka team up. I thought we were maybe going to see a team up with the Jedi that Grogu called out to from the Seeing Stone. I no longer think we will actually see another Jedi this season, unless it's like unrelated at the very end of the next episode, maybe even in the credits. I no longer think we're actually going to get a Jedi, and I don't think it's going to be Luke, and that would have probably been a little bit different had you asked me maybe 1 or 2 episodes ago. So I think that's what's going to happen, and I was beginning to think that we weren't going to see Grogu after the season. I thought maybe it would end with them freeing him. He goes off with the Jedi. He's going to be raised as a Jedi. I don't know if we are not. I don't think we're going to see that. I think Grogu might be around for season 3. Okay. And I'll finish my blue milk cookie in honor of all that.
That's okay.
What about you?
Question.
Yep.
over under 30. I love over unders. Over under 30% that the Jedi that Grogu called out to was indeed Ahsoka. And Ahsoka comes back to save the day, and Grogu goes and is in Ahsoka's series.
I would say under.
How much under?
Just a little under.
So you think that's viable? You can see that?
Yeah, well, I could see it, but I don't think it's very high. Now that I really think about it, it's probably very low. I don't know if they would have Ahsoka instruct him to go sit on the stone, find somebody else, only to just have Ahsoka come back in and save the day anyway. And now that we know we got the news that Ahsoka is getting her own show,
Yep.
I don't see that happening. So I don't think Ahsoka is going to be part of it. As much as I wish, I think we got a one episode. Here's Ahsoka. Here's a tease. By the way, we have an entirely separate show coming with her looking for a Grand Admiral throne.
Got you.
What about you?
You just sold me off the idea.
Okay. Did you think that that's kind of the route they were going to go?
I thought about it. About it. I don't know. I think there's something poetic about Star Wars. They love to Luke turned down Rey and then
and Lucas himself always says it's Star Wars is kind of like poetry. It rhymes, right?
Yeah, and then Rey came back and Luke was there to give her some advice. There's always that. So
I mean, as long as they do it all right, I'm okay with it happening. But I don't see it happening anymore.
I agree. I think when I was looking at it, I was like, I think there's something poetic to that. Her pretty much saying, I can't train him. And then her saying, the Jedi that is right for you will come to you.
Yeah.
And he goes to the stone and he calls out and he, I don't know how that works, but he calls out to her.
Yeah.
Right. And the Force says, that is the pairing. Ahsoka, you actually do need to go train him.
Yeah.
And I think there's something poetic to that.
I could see it in that sense if the Force intervened, but I don't think she'd get into her own series where we potentially get into Ezra Bridger, Sabine. I don't see how Grogu would ever fit in. It almost seems like that's already too much, right? Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not sold on it.
So realistically speaking, so I have another hot take.
Okay.
I think I posed this to you already. Boba is actually going to double cross Mando, and Boba is actually fulfilling the hit that is out for Mando, and he's actually working to deliver him to Moff Gideon.
That idea. And do
you hate it, or do you think it's not likely?
I think it's 50-50 that it's likely. I could actually see it happening, which is why I hate it, right? So I don't know. We've spent so much time kind of looking at Boba as he's this hardened bounty hunter and he's to be feared and everything. I like seeing him with more of a code. So the fact that he could be potentially delivering Mando, I could see it, and I would probably hate that because I kind of like the pairing of them together.
Let me tell you why I think I started thinking that.
Okay.
When Disney did their announcement, one of the things I was expecting is to hear a Boba Fett series.
Same here. I'm very surprised we didn't get any of that news at the Disney Investor this week.
Exactly, which makes me think, well, maybe there isn't a Boba Fett series. And if that's the case, maybe this series, this season is how Boba goes out.
Interesting. So how do you see it playing out then? If he double crosses Mando takes him out?
Yes.
Oh.
And I think that's very compelling.
Interesting.
Again, just a hot take. I think it's a scenario that could happen. I thought about it yesterday. I'm like, because we don't know anything about Boba. I mean, we heard some small dialogue about what he's been up to, but what do we really know about what he's been up to?
And the good thing about Chapter 15 is it didn't really advance anything as far as now, like they didn't discuss the plan and we don't know what's going to happen. So whenever I tune in next Friday, I hope it's an hour long. That would be great for me. I don't know how you're going to be able to tie everything in because we didn't get that natural buildup. I think at the end of season 1, it was kind of like a part 1 and part 2 with 7 and 8 for the first season. This time, it was truly like a self-contained story. I hope it's an hour long, and I have a feeling if it is, it's going to be action-packed, and I don't know how it ends, and I like that.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, so that was Mandalorian Chapter 15, The Believer. If you like this video, make sure you actually go down and give us a like, and make sure you subscribe to the channel for more content.